Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depend of where you are. It is a great honor for me to welcome you to the panel Gender Equality at Sea as part of events at World Ocean Day. I'm pleased to see a variety of experts gathered on this panel from civil society, the private sector, and researchers, to whom I express our gratitude for agreeing to share with us the experience and knowledge. In this panel, we want to make visible the challenges and opportunities are to incorporate the gender perspective in fisheries and aquaculture in Latin America and the Caribbean. For the past 20 years, there has been talking of gender studies and their links to fisheries. This topic has gained greater interest since 2015 with the arrival of international instruments such as the Sustainable Development Goals and the approval of the Voluntary Guidelines to achieve the sustainability of small-scale fisheries. Several years after the emergence of these global efforts to promote gender equality, what are the main findings in Latin American and Caribbean region? The Gender Equality at Sea panel aims to make visible the challenge and opportunities to incorporate gender perspective in marine conservation and sustainable fisheries and aquaculture in Latin America and the Caribbean. The panelists will present the 4 topics and we will give some space at the end to answer your questions. If you have any questions for the panelists, you can write them in the chat. Let me introduce our panelists. Welcome, Carmen Pedrosa. Carmen has a PhD in socioeconomic developed by the School of Higher Studies in Social Science in Paris, France. She currently works as a full-time researcher in Mérida at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. She belongs to the National System of Researchers in Mexico, and her research is made up of publication in national and international magazines on issues related to the contribution of female labor in fishing activities, organizational dynamics in the trade of fishing products, illegal fishing, social networks, and supply system in fisheries market. Carmen will present the division of labor by gender in the fishing sector. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you very much, Paco. I'm going to share the screen. So I hope you can all see what I'm sharing. Well, as Paco said, I'm going to talk about the gender division of labor in the fishing sector. And I am mostly going to talk about some examples in Mexico. At some point, I'm going to try to refer and to give some examples of some other parts of the world. But my presentation is mostly based in the experiences in Mexico. So, well, I could say that this is the most common picture of the gender division of labor in the fishing industry in Mexico. Men fishing, women transforming the fish, and women also might be trading the fish. So this is why it is seen that fisheries are male dominated, because the most important considered activity, it's considered to be the fishing. And well, for the post-harvest activities where mostly women participate, they have been undervalued or they don't have the recognition that they deserve. So why a gender division of labor? Why is the labor divided by gender? Well, normally when we are born, we are assigned a gender. And since we are born, we are learning how to behave according to the gender that has been assigned to us since we are born. So we can say that people become engendered. And this engender of people makes a difference. This shapes our personalities and the concept of ourselves. These tell us how to behave in society and the things that men and women should do or shouldn't do. So this shaping of our personalities and our behavior according to our gender results in a perpetuation of a gender division of labor. All this can be called the gender structures, the doing of gender, the doing on gender, meaning like what things are we supposed to do or what things we have been assigned as male or female. And this is mostly happening in societies stratified by gender. And unfortunately, most of the time, this gender division of labor creates unequal opportunities for men and women, but women have mostly the most disadvantageous situations. And this gender division of labor most of the time reinforces this superior male power and privilege, regardless of the choices of women may wish to make. So this gender structure assign who does what according to gender. And we have different cases. Gender is a dynamic structure, so it can change according to the society, according to time and place. There are societies which are task segregated, and these societies, the women have the responsibility of family-centered labor, and men do the extra domestic work. But we also have the other case of some other societies where both genders perform both activities. However, even in those societies, the women are more responsible for family tasks, okay? And so we have this creation of gender ideology, gender stereotypes, since we have been genderized since we are born. This gender ideology that creates gender stereotypes also create gender norms. And this in fisheries is not the exception. So we can say that in the fishing activity, gender social norms have also prevailed, maintaining traditional social roles in this activity played by men and women. So what women should or shouldn't do and what men should and shouldn't do. So therefore, fisheries have erroneously been perceived as a male-dominated activity, but we can see that there is a lot of female participation. So what has happened since the last few decades or since some time ago? So in general, there is a massive entrance of women into the labor market, and that happens in every sector of the economy. And well, fisheries is not the exception. So different social phenomena have allowed the entrance of women into all these different economic activities. And so the women involvement is increasing also in fisheries and in fishery-related activities. So this is creating novel scenarios, but unfortunately is creating some tension and conflicts. And I'm going to talk about this area of tension and conflicts a little bit later in my presentation. So this increasing participation in smaller scale fisheries by women is implying not only the increasing of women, but it's also a process of gender desegregation of the fishing activity. So what happened? So what happened in fishing? Well, this is a most common scenario in the current situation. Fisheries being dominated by men, totally by men. But we also have this scenario where more women are entering in fishing. Why? Because women also like fishing, or because it's also an activity that women can perform, either because they like it, because they can do it, or because it's a job that they know how to do and they are prepared to do, contrary to other works that require other type of education or training. And we also have this scenario where men and women participate in equal terms. This happens very often because in this case, all the income stays with the family. The husband and the wife go fishing, and then they don't have to share the earnings with a third person, okay? And what about the transformation? Well, in the transformation, we have the scenario where only men are transforming the fish, and women don't like to work among only men. So fish transformation can be also masculinized, or the other extreme where only women transform fish and is considered a female activity. Or the third scenario that we can also find is that is considered just a normal job that anybody can do, anybody can work in it, and it's just an income to support the family. Okay, so it's not badly seen if a man or a woman go filleting fish. And what about the sales of the fish trading? Well, this is a very interesting case because in Mexico, it changes a little bit, but women are very, very much involved in fish trading. And for instance, in cities where we have a huge wholesale market, like in the city of Guadalajara, in the center of Mexico, well, the main economic activity is trading. So women in general are very involved in trading. So trading, it's a common activity for women, and the second largest wholesale market is mostly dominated by women or family businesses. We have some other interesting cases around the world. For instance, in India, there are fisheries that are dominated by men. I mean, in some cases, the men sell the most expensive fish and the women sell the cheaper fish. Or for instance, the cases of Ghana, where the fish trading is dominated by women. And women are the owners even of the fishing tools. And so finally, currently, we can say that the division of labor in fisheries in relation to the resource use, to the control and access is changing, but it's also affecting gender relations on women, and women's struggle for recognition unfortunately continues. Why? Because some men are resisting to these new gender roles as fishers or in other activities related to fishing. Some men don't like women doing activities that were normally considered as activities only done for men. And these will not only happen in fisheries. So, and some areas, women have this problem that they have to demonstrate or they have to fight against men to be able to perform these type of activities, or they are criticized or badly seen by the society, by the communities, if they go fishing or if they perform activities that have normally been dominated by men. But fortunately, gender relations are not fixed. Gender relations are dynamic, and then change through institutions, and they change to socioeconomic relations. So this is all for my presentation, and I just want to thank you for your attention, and I want to thank Kobe for organizing this panel. Thank you very much, and I'll be ready to answer your questions at the end of this panel.
Thank you very much, Carmen. This topic is very interesting because when we talk about a fishing sector, we only think in the harvest activities, no? And your presentation involved or described different activities that apply in fishing, in the fishing sector, and how they activities are doing for women and men. No, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Paco.
Okay, we move to the second panelist. Welcome, Alejandra Salgueros. She has a master in psychology and a PhD in sociology from the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. She currently works as full-time research professor of psychology in the same university. She belongs to the National System of Researchers in Mexico, and her research is made up of publications in national and international magazines on topics related to gender and family issues or topics, male identities and paternities. Alejandra will present expression of masculinity in Mexican small-scale fishery. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I'm going to charge my presentation. Okay. Well, morning and afternoon for each participants. The work that I am going to present is expression of masculinity in Mexican small-scale fishing. In this sense, I can change. I can move. Well, the first topic that I will share with the audience is about the change in gender relation and masculinities. Some of these topics could be present, Carmen, in the past work, and respect how men and women are involved in different works refers to fishers, and these works is inequality in some cases and could be analyzed in different international conferences like the Population and Development and the World Conference of Women. In this conference, the market and turning point important in the global agenda. And the point is respect which men and women participate in different activities in our societies. And in this moment could be unnecessary to be analyzed. Gender inequality norms have highlighted men, as Carmen said in the past presentation, have greater access and control over resources, and in different contexts like forest, agriculture, water, and fisheries. It respects the women. The inequality represents an obstacle, a high obstacle to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in the number 1, respect to no poverty, and the 5, to consider gender equality in men and women, and the 14, life below water. These inequalities could be related with the cultural construction of fishing. The cultural construction of fishing around the world includes the fishing world belongs to men. It's very interesting that in all places, this imaginary and this meaning is present in different activities, respect men and women. Why is this? Due to bodily attributes like physical strength in the man, toughness, and endurance, respect the woman. This construction incorporates gender culture around the world. But also, recent studies have highlighted a possible change in fishing masculinities. And it's a point of search or subject that we ask, what are the points of view of the men that incorporate different manners to be men. The questions that witnesses to you were, the first, what characteristics of masculinity are found in fishing communities, and how are they perceived for the men that we interview? Could working on the construction of masculinities improve the possibilities for women to become involved in decision-making and fisheries management? Could masculinity be a fundamental cause of risk about the accidents in fisheries? Have been changed in the configurations of masculinity present in the fisheries? These questions permit to us to develop a qualitative research. It was very interesting because in our study participate 16 structured interviews that were conducted from July to September of 2020 with 9 women and 7 men. The 3 fisheries that participate in the study were California, spiny lobster in the North Pacific, Gulf of California, and the Mexican Caribbean. How all remember and to continue living in this moment, the COVID-19 pandemic prevalence, we combine the interview about the video calls through the digital platforms like Zoom or WhatsApps in the days and times that they consider convenient for each participant. Our interview work used the information about work, family, and community life to identify the relational construction of gender in the configuration of masculinities. It was the point very important. And in this slide, show the different places that are ubicate the different fisheries. The characterization and expression of masculinity. Our results showed that characterization and expression of masculinity was identified in the 3 fisheries that we study could be to aggregate in 4 categories. And it's really interesting. The first was a reluctant traditional masculinity. In the next slides, I will explain how include each category. The second was flexible traditional masculinity, and the third transitional masculinity, and the fourth, the apprentice masculinity. Respect reluctant traditional masculinity, generally identified in men over 50 years of age. These men consider that in addition to being fishers and members of cooperative, they must also consider for these men have a family with a wife who will always accompany them without never neglecting their home. Could be the women doing another activities, but never abandon the activities in home. These men also consider that fishing will always constitute the sole means that support of their families, never consider another kind of work. The sociocultural construction and characterization of masculinities in these men considers with a gender based on division of labor, as Carmen tells us in the past work, with men acting as exclusive providers and their wives acting as part of life of these men. They accept women in the cooperative so long as women dedicate themselves to women's work. For example, women may be secretaries, but no divers, which hinders the development and the participation of women in fisheries. Respect the second category, flexible traditional masculinity. We identify men with between 40 or 50 years old. Their characterization and expression of masculinity includes, similar to the past category, being a fisher, a member of cooperative, and forming a family. Their wives may be women who engage in different economic activities outside the home, but without neglecting household duties, similar to the past category. This meant having incorporated flexible thinking, accepting proposals such as those attended gender equality course has combined in COVID from young staff or the different members of cooperative. This meant acknowledging the importance of incorporating women into fisheries value chain activities beyond more the administrative work. They recognize that this is important for the development of the cooperative for women to participate in fishing activities, such as oceanographic monitoring and surveillance work. It's the grand difference respect the category previously. The transitional masculinities. This was identifying men between 30 and 40 years old. These men were characterized by holding roles within the value chains that were not those of fishers. It's an important characteristic different to the past two categories. These men were mainly the children of partners in a cooperative or people who have returned to their communities after studying some career elsewhere because they do not see themselves living outside the fishery. Many of the changes in the way of these men come from academic training or land. And it's another characteristic very important, the interaction with people who different backgrounds and their relationship with women they went to school with who have subsequently made decisions about their lives when entering the workforce. These men consider that the role of women can be any that a woman wants. These men have incorporated new ways of thinking about gender equality because they have attended training courses that have provoked reflection and new forms of thinking, which has led them to assume more egalitarian and equality position with regard to women. And the fourth category, and I consider is one of the more important, is the apprentice of masculinities, or masculinity. These were young men between 20 and 30 years old who have recently entered to fishery as workers have characterized apprentice masculinity. These men work with older and more experienced men. Their main aspirations are to be responsible and committed so that they can become members of the cooperative after completing a long process required to become as aspiring partners. The difference in their way of thinking depends to a large extent on the type of masculinity exercised by the man who trains them. Hence, some apprentices behave in the macho manner or the reluctant masculinity, endorsing stereotypes as reluctant traditional masculinity. Yet others show great acceptance for the participation of women in the value chains with more flexible thinking that incorporates the principles of gender equality. To conclusion, or to banner of conclusion, the research shows some change in the expression of masculinities and flexible thinking process, indicating a move towards new relationship forms and the acceptance and recognition of participation of women in fisheries. These men tend towards equality by distancing themselves from the hegemonic model of masculinity. It is necessary to de-essentialize and to view them as gender subjects in a specific social practice. It is for to consider the men could be changed the manner of thinking. Well, thanks for the time and for the stay here in the panel for the presentation about our works. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alejandra.
You're welcome.
This topic, it's very important because if we seek to achieve gender equality, it is necessary to involve women and men. No?
That's right.
And understand the culture and social structure, no? And work with this when the people are young. No? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The next panelists are Dora Ramos and Gabriela Ewan. Dora Ramos, she studied industrial engineer and has a PhD in ecology and sustainable development. She has written scientific articles on women's work, heritage, hydrocarbon industry, and information technologies. Dora has different research in Mexico and Guatemala. And Gabriela Ewan, she is a biologist and has a Master of Science in Natural Resources. She has experience in sustainability, social and gender equality, and social ecological system. She has worked in recent years with the young of the fisheries sector. Dora and Gabriela will present possibilities of incorporating the gender perspective in the new generation of the fishing sector. Welcome, Dora and Gabriela.
Thank you, Paco. Hi all, good afternoon. Dora Ramos and I are grateful for the invitation for this panel. We bring you told that we have entitled Actions Speak Louder, a translation of Mexican phrase, del dicho al hecho hay mucho trecho. In the last year, an interdisciplinary team has worked in a project about fishing and youth. Although the objectives in the research were diverse, we had the opportunity to analyze and process with a gender perspective. We interviewed 25 young women and men of dirty fisheries communities in 4 different regions of Mexico. Young people had between 19 and 29 years old with a remote mode through video conference and telephone calls. The intentional sample was composed of 50 men and 10 women, linked to any step in the production chain. As researchers, we were careful to include women and men because the issues with gender gap isn't about them, but the distribution of work and its benefits. We are looking for young people with leadership potential in the fishing industry, the future of the fishing. As a result of the research, we noticed an interesting speech around the gender or equality topic. I want you to observe the capture perspective with attention, but put your attention to the say to the young people, that words. We observe that words narrate an idyllic scenario of equality. The young people say that all are equal. I have the same right to participate in fishing activities. A woman administrator thinks that the gender topic isn't important in his community because the inequality issues only expressed in other places. These young men say that it didn't matter if you are women or men because all have the same opportunities to work in the fishing activities. Where words come from, young people have suffered a transition between their parent generation and them. Young people are aware of the changes in the social relations. In the past, your mother had always been waiting for them in the clean houses. It had always been their job. When women began to get involved in fishing, men showed dissatisfaction by asking their wives, how are you going to earn more than I do? Or how are we going to make the same? That was not a place for women. They perceive the gender gap is an issue.
Cerraste el micrófono, Gaby.
Okay, sorry. We identified that changes often occur in an increase in the educational level of youth women. Mainly they studied bachelor degree or high school. Also occurred that the girls were higher inclusion in fishing activities compared to their mothers. This resulted of special programs managed by OSS that creating groups of women and initiatives that have boosted a major participation of women in fishing. However, also there are some situations that no one talks about or notices. And it is essential to make them visible because ignoring them limits the possibilities of consolidating the gender equality. And when analyzing the different speeches, data show in the day-to-day of the relation in the social relation in the youth. Action speak louder. The FAO has pointed that of the circle of the invisibility of female labor in fishing occurs when there are problems such as those found in the communities studied, such as underrepresented in implementation. In exact words of the interviewers, this young man mentioned that in his community, the female labor in the fishing is temporary or eventual, not always, not every day. There are also underrepresented in policy. A Peking woman pointed that the decision role in the fishing cooperative is commanded by men. She said, I was going to say that there is not inequality, but after then reflects always on men who were bosses in the cooperative. Other problems are underrepresented in official data. This data was interesting for me because this young man said that in his community there is equity because of the respect given to only one woman who is part of the sector. There are also working women underpaid or undervalued. This woman who is a manager acknowledges lower pay for women in the fishing sector. All of this because a lot of the fisheries related work the women perform is traditional considered an extension of domestic work, and this is undervalued in economic sense. Although the interview generation showed greater female participation in fishing, that participation is still segregated in female and male activities. This graph shows even among young women, participation continues to be oriented towards casual activities, processing and sales or fishing in the lagoons. A women cooperative leader is is exceptional case, she had to create a women-only cooperative in order to hold a leadership position. In a men's space, this could not be. On other hand, the men perform in activities as skipper, fishing trainer, or aquaculturist. And even when women schooling has contributed to their participation in cooperatives, they are still involved in areas where financial decisions are not made, but only in paperwork activities. How we move from words to action for true equity? We are grateful for the great work that the OSCs have done with the fishing communities and the youth. They have placed a transcendental issues in their daily agendas. But as mentioned, my partners, the gender division of labor in small-scale fishery is based on the predominant perception of women are caregivers associated with their tasks in the domestic or private sphere, and men as money providers associated with external world or public sphere. The action is still the stereotype roles, women in reproductive tasks and men in productive tasks, and where responsibilities of child care and parenting are still disproportionate against women. Wars only happen in private space, but we need the action to make them happen. Therefore, some recommendations to gender equity are raising awarenesses of the role of women in the fishing industry, increasing the representation of women in the fishing, disaggregate information on fisheries by gender, and gender-sensitive evaluation in action plans. Let's not forget particularities for young women, creating jobs beyond temporary jobs. It's necessary training and programs for young women. It's important addressing the new paradigms on family roles. This is a particular topic because we attach it to the youth. It's very difficult cultural aspect to address with older generation, but young people listen to it, live it, it can transform it in a new everyday life. Last is important, create space for youth political participation. Finally, I would like to conclude this participation by reiterating that although these spaces are the first element to attack gender gaps, it still represents the private space between academia and OSS. We need more effort to go to the public spaces, the communities, the fishing activity itself. We still need to talk in depth about the division of domestic tasks because job opportunities in fishing labor will not be equitable as long as domestic tasks are not. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. I think young people are hope to achieve gender equality in the future. No? They are open to discuss this topic. Furthermore, both women and men see themselves as part of the fishing sector, no? And work with this with this range of age with young. It's between 29 and up and down. I'm confused, sorry. And down, it's very important, no? Thank you very much for your presentation. And the last panelist is Neira Solano. She has a bachelor's degree in environmental science and sustainable development from Loyola and Pacific University, and a bachelor's degree in education. She has a master's degree in management Science from the Coastal Zones by Tecnológico Nacional de México, and a diploma in masculinities, gender, power, and politics from the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. She currently holds the position of gender equality specialist in the strategy line of scaling up of the Civil Association Comunidad y Biodiversidad Leading Science 2017, the Gender Equality in the Sea at Sea program. Neira will present mapping gender equality in fisheries, aquaculture, and marine conservation in Latin America and the Caribbean. Welcome, Neira.
Thank you, Paco. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to present the result of a mapping at the Latin American Caribbean level to learn about the initiatives that have been carried out to incorporate gender equality in sustainable fishing and in marine conservation activities. As we observed in the previous presentation, there are many opportunities to incorporate a gender approach in ocean management. And in other words, this topic can be developed from different fronts. And I'm going to tell you a little about what we have found in the region on this topic. For 2 decades, there has been talk of gender studies and its link with fishing. But it was not until recent years that different projects has been carried on that seek to generate information on gender relation in the fishing sector, inform to fishing communities, and incorporate the gender perspective in marine conservation and sustainable fishing programs. And despite this, little is known about this project and the change they have produced about gender issues in Latin America and the Caribbean. And not knowing about these initiatives limits the possibilities of joining efforts between organizations with similar objectives, make it difficult to replicate and scale functional methodologies, and reduce the opportunities for exchanging knowledge and subject. And currently, the Latin America region lacks mechanisms that connect initiatives and disseminate information about the results and their main challenges in incorporating a gender perspective in fishing and in conservation. And as a first step to find out what is being done in gender matter in the region and connect this experience, Comunidad y Biodiversidad, or COBI, through its Gender Equality at Sea program, develop a mapping of initiatives in Latin America and the Caribbean. With this mapping, we seek to identify programs, projects, research, and funding that promote or involve gender equality. A survey in Google form was developed to collect data from the initiatives, and the survey consisted of 36 questions related to which organization is responsible for the initiatives, the type of initiative, and I mean if the initiative is a program, project, research, or funding, what is the main topic of the initiative, to which small-scale fishing voluntary guideline and sustainable development goals contributes, if the initiative is active, if it has concluded or is on pause, and other questions related to geographical location and details of the ecosystem. The form was disseminated via email to key contacts in Latin America and the Caribbean and through the website Igualdad en el Mar. The initiatives obtained were recorded on a map in the same website. Through the mapping, 46 initiatives in 9 countries were identified, being Mexico and Chile the countries with the most registered initiatives. In general, it was found the largest number of initiatives correspond to project, followed by research. And of the initiative identified, 65% were active, 18% were completed initiatives, and 17% to correspond to inactive initiatives. That is, they are paused for a particular reason, such as lack of funding, social distancing, internal organization, among others. 7 main topics were identified during the mapping: alternative economic activities, conservation, governance and empowerment, market, monitoring, fisheries, and gender perspective. Other initiatives related to education and recognition of the role of women in fishing were found. They are located within other category. And by categories, conservation was the most mentioned topic in research initiatives. Gender perspective and governance and empowerment were the most mentioned in programs. And alternative economic activities was the most indicated topic in projects. The only registered fund corresponds to governance and empowerment. According to the results, the majority of those responsible for developing the initiatives are the community, the academy, and the fishing cooperatives. On the other hand, the stage of the fishing value chain with the highest percentage of associated initiatives is complementary to production, and the lowest is pre-production with 9%. At the same time, 9% did not specify if their initiative is associated with a particular stage, and 2% indicated that none of these options applies. As we observe, communities and cooperatives are highly involved in gender equality efforts, and this was indicated in the complementary to production stage, which is the one most closely related to the initiatives, and where there is greater involvement of the community in general. This may indicate an interest in incorporating a gender perspective in their fisheries, aquaculture, and marine conservation activities. Of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 10 are the most closely related to the initiatives identified. The top 3 were SDG 5, Gender Equality, SDG 14, Life Below Water, and SDG 1, No Poverty, together with SDG 12, Responsible Consumption. In results by country, SDG 5 is the most mentioned in Chile, Ecuador, and Mexico with 54%, 67%, and 63% respectively. Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay only indicate one SDG in their initiatives. SDG 1, No Poverty for Costa Rica and Uruguay, and Life Below Water for Dominican Republic. Brazil and Honduras contribute in a balanced way to different SDGs. Good health, gender equality, and life below water for Brazil with 33%. And for Honduras, zero hunger, gender equality, decent work, and responsible consumption with 25%. While Peru is related in a 67% with no poverty and in a 33% with gender equality. Regarding the voluntary guideline, during the mapping of initiative, 5 principally have been indicated, where sustainable resource management was the most indicated, and disaster and climate change risk the least with 2%. And by countries, sustainable resource management was the only guideline indicating Costa Rica, Honduras, and the Dominican Republic. For Chile, the most mentioned was value chain with 36%. For Mexico, gender equality with 53%. And Uruguay only indicates social development as the only guideline to which it contributes. And as we can see, a large number of initiatives identified are linked to more than one of the SDGs and voluntary guidelines. All of these indicators contribute to the SDGs and guidelines related to gender. However, in some cases, the main objective of the initiatives is linked to the other SDGs and guidelines mentioned here, but they incorporate a gender component. Finally, I would like to close the presentation with 4 main messages. More and more initiatives on gender equality in fisheries, aquaculture, and marine conservation are taking place in Latin America. 46 initiatives were registered in 9 countries in the region. However, it is estimated that there are more initiatives that currently promote gender equality. And initiative mapping is a resource with potential to identify current effort, interests, and needs, as well as the future projection regarding gender in the region. The topics found here can be the starting point in the development of research line and work network for capacity building, public policies, and information dissemination, as well as other interinstitutional strategies that enable the incorporation of gender perspective in the fishing sector. Therefore, it is necessary to continue with the mapping to identify the institutions that work on the issues and connect them to scale their effort and thus generate a learning network. The communication between the institutions that develop these initiatives will help to achieve equal participation in the management of fishing reserve, and as a result, marine conservation and sustainable fishing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Naira. It's important to do, we must know, no? And we must know efforts, what is being done in Latin American and Caribbean, and how they contribute to international agreements. No? It's important to know and understand, to develop new efforts to achieve the gender equality in the communities, in the countries. No? Thank you very much. Thanks to the 5 panelists for presenting their research. You can ask questions and make comments in the chat. I share some questions with the panelists. For Alejandra, how can move towards the new masculinities or more equitably masculinities in the fishing sector?
Well, I try to think in these moments, and I consider 3 points of view, and could be shared with us in some cases with Gabriela and Carmen. But I consider in the first place, the gender education. It's very important because it's the gender education not includes only the women, but the men too. And it is a point of view very important to change the thinking about the different places that women and men could be work or could be state or could be life. Is this a first point? And could be maybe seminaries or courses, no? That incorporate the presence of men and women. Could be that COVID's work has doing in the different regions, that because in the research we can see that some changes about the masculinities in men who take some course, or maybe sometimes could be here about the gender relation, and this applies in their lives. The second point, maybe I consider that involve the women in the different activities of the value chain, because women historically and had participated only in some kinds of value chains, and could be participating in the different, maybe in the continue to the oceanographic monitoring or the activity of vigilance and something like that. Women historically are present in different spaces of fisheries, but is not have been considered like that. And it is important point of view that incorporating the new spaces. And finally, the third point, I could maybe in the different regions could be incorporate the new discourses about the participation of women and men, like similar genders, space, relationships, and lives, no? As Gabriela shows in the presentation, has recommendation about we can to consider about the change inclusive, the new masculinities or new forms to be men. That's right.
Thank you very much, Alejandra.
You're welcome.
Carmen, how do we break this idea that women do not participate in fishing? No? How change the idea that harvest is the only activity in fishing?
Well, this is a very interesting question, and it might have like many different answers. I think the first point is that, is that women's work it seems to be like a not work, it's not a valuable work because it's done by women, and the gender that is related to the economy, the bread giver, the bread provider is the man. And that's why women's work is undervalued. So I'm going to give you a real example. For instance, here in Yucatan, in the port of San Felipe, with the fishers of this crab, masquil. Well, at the beginning, the fisherwomen were like badly seen by the community because they were fishing, and fishing is only supposed to be by men. Then they demonstrated to the fishermen, that her work was valuable and it was worth, and it was good for them because they will go fishing the bait, and then they will save this work to men. And then I think that's a very good way of demonstrating that women's work is valuable and it's good for the economy, because where women's work, economies grow. So the point is, in summary, to show how women's work, it has value as well. And it has, and it is important for the local economy, for the household, and for the society in general. And another point will be through education. Well, you could be working in training, in educating, in opening the eyes of women and showing how important their job is. And if women have education, they are empowered, and they can also show by themselves how valuable their works are, how important are for the community and for the household.
Thank you, Carmen. The next question is from the topic of John and Dora and Gabriela. What will be the strategies to work on gender issues with the new generation? No? It's important to know this new generation are more interested to stay in the fisheries in different communities in Mexico, no? And what are the strategy, no, to share this topic and different issues about gender?
I would like to answer. I hope the internet will work well now. My name is Dora Ramos. Okay, so let's explain two things. First, yes, we are in the middle of one very interesting moment in the, let's say we have a lot of youngers, a lot of people who perhaps the parents didn't be as interesting as they are in the fishing. That is an opportunity. also there is an opportunity because they are well educated. They are more educated than their parents or their grandparents. So they have that possibility also to be more viable for doing an innovation, for doing innovative ways for selling, buying, processing. That is an important moment. But I want to say also, the women now, younger women, are also in an important moment because they are also more educated like their mothers were. They are also having new ideas, as we say, about this. We have a new discourses about, but what we localize it in our research is we need as organizations, as a social organization, as a state, as academics, we need to move on in some things that are related to the private sector. I mean, we want those younger women will have babies. So we need to have a better system for caring those babies. We need to have a better healthcare. So we need to have a better services for healthcare. I mean, there are a lot of things around the families, the houses, like need to be fixed so we can improve the women participation in the economy. Because Mexico right now is far away from countries as Chile. I mean, we are centuries from Finland or from Denmark, but we are even far away from Chile or Argentina. And what we need to create is that kind of public policies what can affect what is happening there inside the houses, inside the households. And we have an opportunity right now with these younger women and younger men.
Thank you, Dora. Gabi, you have an answer?
Thank you, Paco. I think that is an excellent opportunity to work with young people because of their awarenesses and enthusiasm, because of their openness and new social issues. It's part of the everyday life now. It's important. We are going to include young Mexican women in Latin American fishing issues as an example of what is happening in your country with these new leaders in fishing activities. It's all.
Thank you, Dora and Gabriela. And the last question is for Neira. Why develop a mapping initiatives, and whose benefits or who can use it?
Thank you, Paco. The mapping can help in a first step to know what is happening in Latin America. If we don't know or we don't have the information, if we don't know what is happening, we cannot take action to address the problem. So the first step is get the information, mapping the initiatives, and later to build a learning network that can be useful for fishing communities, for the government, for the academy, to share solutions that can help to achieve healthy ocean and resilient communities through equal participation. The initiatives presented here were registered until October of the last year. However, the survey is still open on the Igualdad en el Mar website. So if someone is working on an initiative related to gender, fisheries, and marine conservation, they can access the website and be part of this mapping.
Thank you, Neira. And we are on time. Thank you very much to the panelists. And final message is the diverse cases present this day are an advance to achieve gender equality in the fishing sector. However, it is necessary to continue working on this mainstreaming topic. It's very, very important. Thank you very much for for all the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes,
Thank you.
it was a pleasure. See you.